right now just because you have so many good defensive options, right? You have banishes, you have board clear, both through ALS as well as through Dark
To
Shadow.
counter to Shadow in some ways.
And you've just got so many good options, and you've got like good healing, good self-healing. And of course, Aegis puts a really strong timer on the board to kind of prevent your opponent from kind of drawing out a victory, right? Because if you have the Aegis down on the board, they don't have that many turns to just keep drawing top decks. So, into our first match, Potwasher versus Noah.
Two of the powerhouses of the NGE Shadowverse Open in a shadow-on-shadow mirror matchup. This could be very exciting. I'm sure they've got very similar deck compositions. Potwasher has mulliganed out the Shadow Reaper. He's got the Grimnir and the Catacomb in hand, as well as the Dark Conjurer. Really solid early drops. He could make a real solid 2-3-4 play with the Catacomb, especially because he's going first. He's going to be able to get that Catacomb out first. That could be a crucial advantage that he's able to earn. He also has Phantom Howl in hand as well, and so does Noah as well. So this could be a very fast-paced and aggressive game that we see from both these players.
Yeah, and you know, having both of these guys kind of with such strong opening hands is... This is going to be a doozy. Mid-range Shadow, alive and well.
Yep.
You know, and this just goes to show that Prince Cat, you know, this is what it is like to be a smart businessman. Prince Catacomb was like, hey, I'm going to charge you four play points now. And
so he's sitting pretty. He's making lots of money.
Yeah.
He's not mad at all.
Please. We'll keep buying your services.
Now, if anything, he's going to get more expensive.
Yeah.
He's still very viable, still a very strong card.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Maybe he's going to charge us 5 next time.
Hopefully not. That would be pushing it. That'd be pushing it. So he's probably going to sit at 4 for a while right now. We'll see if Potwasher decides to play him this turn. I think he's deciding whether or not he wants to maybe play the Orthrus, maybe get his Shadow Reaper out on the field already right now. But I feel like Catacomb would be such a strong play, even though you've only got one follower on the board. But Grimnir, he's not going to be able to trade into himself and clear himself off. They'll both be left with 1 health unless he Orthruses. Does a 2 damage and then buffs him up as well. But then Grimnir will be sitting at 2 health and 1 defense, kind of an iffy target, especially because there's a Lyrial Archer in the hand of Noah, being able to ping that for 1 damage next turn.
Yeah, thought a lot about that turn, and this is kind of, it makes sense that this is a turn that people spend the most time on, right? Because this turn 4, turn 5 is so important for the rest of the mid game and late game, and transitioning into the late game for a Shadowcraft deck.
Right.
You really need to weigh your options very carefully. And so it looks like Noah's response and going second is going to kind of allow him to do this on his 4th play point turn. Plays Lyrial with the Shadow Reaper, and the Evolve is going to give him some good board control. And look at that, just like that. Now you have a Shadow Reaper on board. You've taken away all the extra last word skeletons on the side of Potwasher. And now Potwasher has to find some way to respond efficiently. Maybe the random Orthrus, maybe...
He just came into a Bone Chimera. That could be devastating if he chooses to evolve that, trade into the Lyrial. But he doesn't have a Shadow Reaper of his own. If he wants to play that, that would be the play for the Bone Chimera Shadow Reaper combo. He is sitting on a Soul Squasher as well. That could get rid of the Lyrial, but again, you're buffing up Noah's Shadow Reaper.
We'll see what the option is. And, you know, Orthrus is a very, very high-risk option, right?
Right.
You lock yourself out of any other play point option. If you look at Potwasher's hand, he doesn't have a one play point drop. And so it's going to be tough to justify. I mean, 50-50, get rid of that Shadow Reaper and buff up your skeleton so you can take down the Lyrial sounds great. But
you take a big risk there.
He's going to go for the safe play.
Yep, going to evolve the Bone Chimera, trade into the Lyrial Archer. Let's see what Noah does to answer this play. They've both got a Shadow Reaper. Noah was able to get his out 1 turn ahead, making it that much stronger.
Goes up to 3. And now the same situation, or kind of a similar situation.
Ooh, just turned into a Cerberus.
He needs to figure out what the best way to kind of clear the board is, but as he's clearing the board, 3 skeletons means 3 damage onto the Reaper and 3 more health.
Right.
How do you get 5 damage onto the Shadow Reaper? It could very easily get out of control. And remember, there's still more Evolve Orbs available. And so Potwasher is going to be able to trade into followers to continue buffing that Shadow Reaper.
Oh, took out the skeleton.
My God.
Missed by 1. But that is a 5-3 Shadow Reaper. If he chooses to evolve it this turn, not knowing if Potwasher could have Soul Squasher in his hand as well, that could be a very good play. He's going to go with the Orthrus as well. Get a little bit more board clear. Buffing up Potwasher's Shadow Reaper, of course, but that's still 5 damage right to face on turn 5 for Noah.
Potwasher is on a very important turn right now. There is possibility for him to really make something big happen, and another Bone Chimera gets drawn here. We'll have to figure out 7 shadows in the pocket for Potwasher. But he doesn't have Cerberus, and Noah does, so that might change Noah's line of play here in just a bit. Remember, Noah is sitting on the Phantom Howl as well. Play Cerberus, you get basically an extra 4 damage in your Storm combo, plus an Evolution Orb.
11 damage,
6 damage. Got 5 on board. That's 11 damage reach for you.
Yeah, an 11 damage reach right on turn 6 if you're able to play Cerberus.
And that's
get those
just
cards.
with 1 damage tokens, right?
Right.
All right, it looks like Shadow Reaper is going to get buffed up a little more, and because he did not evolve his own Shadow Reaper, that 5 damage will get sunk into the Bone Chimera, and that is a great trade.
That is a really great trade, especially because you still have the Soul Squasher to send out, destroying that Orthrus and gaining a massive swing in tempo for Potwasher.
And really, I think the evolved Cerberus to trade as a Shadow Reaper, maybe, but then how do you deal with these 3 skeletons and a little Soul Squasher?
Yeah, that's there's such a tempo favor of Potwasher. Even the evolved Cerberus would just take out the Reaper, and I think that's what you're probably going to have to do.
Just the Soul Squasher without the Necromancy, and that's going to limit his play point options here.
Yeah,
Doesn't want to commit the Catacomb as well. The Phantom Howl will be spent here.
Gave him the shadows he needed, and he's going to be able to at least clear out the Shadow Reaper and the skeletons as well.
And I think this is important, right? It's more important to take off bodies on board than it is to get rid of that. You know, getting rid of 2 skeletons is better than getting rid of 1 Soul Squasher. But he's going to opt to get rid of the Soul Squasher there. I have to wonder, right? More bodies means more potential for things like Ector to buff up, for Catacomb to give Last Word effect, you know, and those things give, you know, it's just there's so many benefits for Shadow to have cards on board as opposed to strong single cards. So
Right. Potwasher was able to Soul Conversion and get the Ector in hand as well. We'll see what the draw is for Noah. It's going to be an Ector of his own.
Here comes a Cerberus, and has enough play points to immediately spend on Coco or Mimi. Will you take down that 3 damage? I mean, if you don't, I think you risk lethal here.
Right, absolutely, especially with Phantom Howl and
it would be 1
well.
point off. 1 point off lethal.
This head can't be taken. But still, Potwasher able to get the Ector out first. Could possibly set up for lethal next turn with Phantom Howl. We'll see how Noah decides to answer this.
This needs to be a definitive turn, and Ector is definitely not necessarily your ideal option.
Right, and with the Phantom Howl, he used those few turns ago. You've
clear.
only got 4 shadows left. And Ector would not have been able to clear the board. That's going to be Noah tapping out, and Potwasher taking the first game in the round of 8.
Yeah. This is very, very interesting, and that's kind of the classic Shadowcraft matchup, right? The mirror matchup in terms of like the player going first. They have a lot of weight behind their turns just because they get to that play point 6 faster. They get to play point 7 faster. And really, that tempo was not able to be bought back, despite the fact that there was such a strong Reaper turn kind of for Noah. I think that his Reaper was in a pretty good position. The only issue being that he didn't quite get enough buff up that he needed. He was sitting on 3 health, and that allowed that Bone Chimera to evolve and trade in. And I think that was really the turning point there. If he had evolved the Reaper, he would have still been taken down by the Soul Squasher, you know. But maybe those shadows being lost meant that the Ector in the future would not be as potent. It's hard to say, right?
It's hard to say.
It's really hard to say. I mean, that's just 1 less zombie, right? So probably not that relevant. But you have to wonder, was there any line of play that could have saved Noah from that situation? Into the next game, however, and it's going to be Bloodcraft versus Sword, and Noah's going to lean back into the deck that he must feel performs better against Blood. And I can imagine it, right? Blood lowers its own health to kind of the 10 health area,
and that's
Sword
exactly
comes
what
in.
Sword wants for an Albert or an Alwidas. We'll see exactly what happens here. Potwasher does have Belphegor in hand as well as Diabolic Drain. setting up for a massive Vengeance play on turn 5, turn 4, when Belphegor is going to be able to come out on the board.
Going second, I think, is going to be rough right now for potwasher, because it's very possible for this game to end right as Noah expends his evolution orb. So that third evolution orb might not really make a difference. It's going to be a lot about how much can potwasher heal up or ward up. I think that's going to be important, because in terms of board control, if Noah hits into kind of the good 5, 6, 7 curves, that's where most of his damage is going to be made. I would be a little concerned for Noah if it gets past that point, and Vengeance still has a lot of strong options in hand.
And I love the Succubus card for the Bloodcraft deck, especially with the Vengeance Blood being able to make that 3-drop deal 2 damage to the enemy, because you're going to be dropping low on health yourself. And the more you're able to do damage to your opponent in that matchup is absolutely massive. Here's the Evolve Orb for potwasher. He's going to be able to summon Belphegor, put himself in Vengeance, but it's only going to be able to do 3 damage to himself. He was able to really optimize that play.
Yeah, and this is really the big issue playing against Vengeance Blood is almost it seems like your early damage, if it doesn't get them below 10, it's just as you would say Keikaku, right? Just as planned for the Bloodcraft guy.
Now, potwasher could have just as easily had Soul Dealer in his hand, and that would have been a little bit more risky, because Belphegor drops you to 10 health no matter what. But Soul Dealer, it cuts your health in half. So if you're already at 13 health, that would have put him at 7 health, if it's not rounded down.
Here comes kind of the slightly more efficient play, and I think potwasher is trying to get, or rather Noah's trying to get potwasher to spend an extra evolution orb to remove that Luminous Mage, but now that you're in Vengeance, things like Dark General become very relevant.
Things that Dark, yep, very true. He could Dark General, go for that face damage, get the Vengeance effect, and then Diabolic Drain to get rid of the Luminous Mage. It would heal him back up to 12, so he'd be out of Vengeance next turn, but I don't think that Sword is going to have any problem putting him back down at Vengeance. He's going to go with the Spiderweb and get the full effect out of that card without dealing damage to himself, because you're already in Vengeance.
A 4 health board is great, actually, just for two play points.
Absolutely. Those are stats you expect from a 3-drop. I think there's actually a neutral card that is 3 cost, but it has 1 attack, 4 health, and ward. So for Bloodcraft, being able to have that exact cost for a 2-drop, it's absolutely massive.
We'll see where the evolution orb goes.
It could go to the Imp, it could go to the Ambling Wraith, and I think that's exactly what potwasher is going to choose to do to get rid of that mage and keep his follower alive with just 2 health. And there's already a pretty massive tempo in the favor of potwasher, but he's at 9 health. Noah's already at 17 health. That's quite a bit.
So I think this comes to be a very tough spot here. The Novice Trooper is not bad. Tsubaki is not going to be super relevant for now, and typically the on-turn damage that Vengeance Blood has means that Tsubaki will only be relevant if you have to still be alive, right?
Right.
You could very much still face lethal even when playing the Tsubaki, because it's not going to provide you a ward,
And man, that whole-souled swing into Floral Fencer with the Urias on board, that's exactly what Urias and a Bloodcraft wants to see when you've already got Urias on board. Because now potwasher was at 17 health, but now he's at 13 health. That's a lot of damage that potwasher is able to eke out. And he's still got an Evolve Orb to spend in the Dark General for 6 damage right from his hand as well.
Diabolic Drain. Outside of Vengeance now.
Just 1 health outside of Vengeance. But with the Succubus, he's going to be able to still do more damage to Noah.
Oh, that's going to damage him. Oh, no.
And the Urias can still trade into a Knight, possibly go for face damage as well. I think gaining just a little bit more of tempo in your favor is going to be crucial, especially because you're not in Vengeance. He does have the Razor Claw, so he can put himself in Vengeance for 2 costs next turn, as well as doing 3 damage, plus an Evolved Dark General. Next turn, we could, unless Noah's able to deal with this board, we could see potwasher take a victory next turn, depending on the draw for Noah and how he chooses to answer.
Potwasher needs to be very careful, though, and I think Razor Claw is certainly not the option at this point in time, because just looking at the damage on board, right, if he had tried to go face, that's 4 damage on board, plus at least a 2 from the Novice Trooper, and then an Evolve as well. Could bring him really close to lethal. It's just not a position he wants to be in, especially when Noah is just out of reach.
Right, and when a Fangblade Slayer could be coming out next turn. It's a shame that there we see the Tsubaki in hand for Noah in this blood on blood matchup. Could be very well used if there's an evolved Soul Dealer, or just an unevolved Soul Dealer for that matter, or an evolved Belphegor as well. So very strong card, but coming in this stage of the game, there's not really that strong of a follower on the board for potwasher, so can't really use that card this turn. And there's Noah able to gain tempo back just from his hand, bringing him down to just one card left in his hand.
And I think Noah definitely taking the safe option, tries to go for the board clear. He doesn't want any kind of long reach, ruining his day. Angel of the Word is actually kind of a neat draw in this scenario.
Especially considering both of the followers for Noah only have 1 health each. Yeah, it's a shame that he's out of Vengeance now because Dark General, Diabolic Drain, they're not gaining their Vengeance effects. I think he's deciding whether or not he wants to play them this turn. There's not like a great play in the hand of potwasher. I think he's going to have to play Angel of the Word to get rid of that Evolve Knight. And there's no more Evolve Orbs left on the field. So both players are kind of at a real difficult position where their hands are not optimal. But they're going to have to make do with what they've got.
Noah's played out most of his hand here, so he's really relying on kind of the top decks. And this kind of really hurts, right? Tsubaki is kind of very irrelevant in this situation. By the time there's a follower that has enough damage to Tsubaki, you're probably dead already. And that early turn Belphegor, you still need to wait 2 turns before Tsubaki becomes relevant.
Oh my gosh,
so he's going to set up
Albert.
probably a 2-turn lethal here. Enhanced Albert is coming up with 6 damage, plus it's Tsubaki that is very tough to remove / impossible to remove with your current hand.
Yeah, that's 6 damage from the Evolved Albert and 4 from Tsubaki. That's going to be enough for Noah to end this game and bring it 1-1.
There it is. And that's kind of the best situation that Noah could have hoped for with Tsubaki.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Really, really, I mean, just barely getting away with it.
Yeah, especially because the ambush there absolutely coming in crucial.
It's important, and I think both players kind of drew themselves out of options. A top deck on an Albert is really...
Especially right on turn 9 when you can play the Tsubaki, wait out that turn knowing that your opponent doesn't have lethal no matter what they have in their hand, waiting until turn 9 to play the Albert and then go for face for that massive amount of damage.
And we kind of talked about it a little bit, right? The amount of damage that Bloodcraft does to itself makes Swordcraft very dangerous against it. I think the only thing that is really awkward is it feels like sometimes your early turns are kind of just throwing away options. You're going to do that 10 damage anyways when Belphegor comes down, right? But now you've just let your opponent remove Novice Troopers, remove Floral Fencers. But how else do you play that early game? I think that's a very important question. So we have Vengeance Blood going up against Midrange Shadow again here. And will Noah extend his life in this tournament for another run at a repeat, or at possibly a repeat victory here?
Or are we going to see Crimson Fencers advance to the semifinals, possibly the finals? There is a Belphegor on the mulligan for potwasher. I really love that. He's going second. He's going to be able to Belphegor and evolve on that same turn as well. And he's got the Blood Pact. He's got Bloodkin for turn 2 and Angel of the Word for turn 3. This is a great curve for potwasher. And there's also a pretty good curve for Noah as well. He's going to have Bone Chimera on turn 3. Maybe that will be destroyed by the next turn, and he can summon Prince Catacomb to really get a great effect from that 4-drop.
Gambling Wraith attacks for 1 more.
Urius, a very effective card against this mid-range deck, especially with Catacomb and with Bone Chimera when there's a lot of followers being put on the board total. For a 3-drop, getting 3 different followers, that's exactly what a Urius wants to see.
And there it is. Turn 3 here now for potwasher. Has Belphegor in hand again. Angel of Word.
Angel of Word could take out the Lyrial. Urius could trade in the Bone Chimera. That would get that off the field immediately. Put the 2 skeletons on board. It's going to go for face. Does not want to open up for a Catacomb play on turn 4, especially because Shadow is going first. That tempo could ramp up very fast for Shadowcraft.
Potwasher has an evolution turn next, and that's going to make that Belphegor huge.
It's going to make it huge, but there's not really going to be anything for it to swing into if Noah plays the Catacomb. He could Shadow Reaper Lyrial this turn, just to like put even more followers on the board for the Reaper and then Catacomb next turn, if you wanted to do that, or the turn after that. Then maybe the Belphegor could trade into the Lyrial, if just to get just to take out a 2-2 follower as opposed to just a 1-1.
Right now, the situation on board is kind of Noah in this scenario where he would like to build more shadows. And he might be able to do that here.
Right, and what's interesting is we see the opponent of the Vengeance Blood being lower than the Vengeance Blood player.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, Urias has done more than his weight in terms of value.
He's paid for his weight in gold.
Oh, God.
Oh, my goodness. You're buffing up the Shadow Reaper, but you're just doing more damage to yourself from that Urias. That Urias, man, MVP of this game.
We'll see. Oh, the Air Jammer might
on
be
turn
very
5,
dangerous.
Oh, that's so dangerous for Noah, especially because Potwasher's on Vengeance right now. He was at 19 health. That is one painful Belphegor, a massive risk that he's taking.
Now, this can be taken down by a Soul Squasher because there's going to be a way for Noah to get the shadows that he needs, and he already has it here at this point. Playing it will make Noah take at least 1 extra point of damage here. Unless he's going to opt to run the Shadow Reaper in.
I think he might just want to bring the Shadow Reaper. Oh my gosh, now he's going to have to play for tempo. He can trade the Lyriel into the Belphegor, just get that massive 6-4 follower off the board. Now he's going to trade into the Urias and Soul Squasher the Belphegor.
A good reversal of fortune here for Noah, and he has lethal on board here, if nothing else. Air Jammer could defend him.
It could bring a Spiderweb Imp onto the board, but that's a risk. There's other 2-drops in the bank for Potwash. It could bring 2 Urias. He does have Ambling Wraith, so it could bring an Ambling Wraith on the board, and that would be devastating. So it's a risk to play Dark Air Jammer, especially when you've got Diabolic Drain for 1 cost in your hand, and a Dance of Death as well.
How do you reach 5 damage? The only way is really, I mean, unless you spend 2 cards on it, the Blood Wolf and then the Diabolic Drain. But then you need a 2-drop follower to kind of get rid of maybe the Soul Squasher.
He's going to Dark Air Jammer.
He's digging.
And he didn't get the Spiderweb Imp. He's going to have to evolve, trade that into the Reaper, real good, so that the Air Jammer will be left with 1 health.
And now the Wolf to the Soul Squasher.
And that's it for his turn, so, oh my gosh.
What is the
Noah
top
can
deck?
swing for 1 damage. Oh, it's going to be a Skull Beast. But either way, he can Skull Beast and then Catacomb. And then no matter what Potwasher does, even if he
I
draws
actually
into
think probably the Grimner is the safest option here.
Oh, right.
You don't want to risk any kind of Dark General coming out and ending the game for you here.
Yeah, there is 1 Evolve Orb left for Potwasher. The Evolve,
really
the draw,
want to make sure,
massive.
Yeah, really want to make sure that you kind of eliminate damaging possibilities here on the side of Potwasher's board. He's going to go for the Evolve to eliminate it. So no ward.
But I think he set up lethal for himself that turn, because now Lyriel and the Skull Beast are going to summon a skeleton when they die. So even if Potwasher clears the board, but that's a Spiderweb Imp in hand. That's going to be absolutely massive. Those skeletons, it's going to take them a long time for them to chew through that 1/4 ward.
Again, it depends on the top deck here for Noah. There's definitely cards that he could play that would give him that reach.
Right, especially on turn 7. Oh my gosh, an Ector drop would be absolutely crucial. Or even a Cerberus as well.
Gonna evolve.
That's his last Evolve Orb too. Spin on the Imp. Ends his turn, and the Succubus does 2 damage right to face. That's 9 health for Noah. Oh my
Grimner
gosh.
to ward up. And can't get the ghost from that.
Yep, your only 2 followers that have attack have 1 attack each, and that is a 5 health Evolve.
Oh, gonna have
Imp.
to pass. There's the Dark General. He's got the Dance of Death, but can't play the Dark General now. 5 damage here. Still had. Oh, there's the Blood Wolf for the lethal. And there it is. Potwasher will close it out. And that is a situation that is really tough for Noah, right? You come so close to getting lethal, but the Diabolic Drain's just barely keeping yourself out of range of swinging for the kill. And really, it was, I feel like in both games, Noah was put into a situation where he's just waiting for his card to come up. And in the Swordcraft game, he was able to pull Albert. But in this particular game, he wasn't able to get his options. And that kind of speaks to these decks that you're playing, mid-range Shadow, I feel like, does occasionally end up in these situations where you don't really have the options that you would need. And up against Vengeance Blood that plays at the pace that it does, I feel like it's very important to make sure that in the mid game you have those options to either close it out or to protect yourself from damage.